Brahmarishi Vashishta and Brahmarishi Vishwamitra, they worship Lord Ram. According to them, Lord Ram is a bridge. And he's a bridge that helps you cross from this world to the other world, from the material world to the spiritual world.
आप सबका स्वागत है। जय धारी माँ। शुभा जी, हरे कृष्णा। जय सिया राम।
डॉक्टर किरण जी, सोना जी,
हम अपनी ऑडियंसेस को विश यू ऑल अ वेरी हैप्पी दिवाली। पहले से ही विश यू ऑल अ वेरी हैप्पी दिवाली। खूब तैयारियां करिए, खूब रौनक से मनाइए। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है लीडरशिप, लेकिन उस पे चर्चा शुरू करने से पहले एक बहुत शुभ बात पता चली। अगले महीने हमारे शुभा जी की बुक आ रही है। उसका टाइटल है थिंक बिग टू विन। दैट इज द 6th बुक जो सीरीज है उन्होंने लिखी है, द गेम ऑफ लाइफ, रामायण द गेम ऑफ लाइफ। तो वही हमारा टॉपिक भी रहेगा और आपके सामने किताब को भी प्रस्तुत करेंगे। इट्स ग्रेस की 6 वॉल्यूम उनकी कृपा से आप सबके सामने है। लीडरशिप पे बात करते हैं। क्या है लीडरशिप? Where does it start? I truly believe when you're ready to lead your own self, that's when true leadership begins. When you have the capacity to lead your own self, you're ready to lead. You've arrived. You're ready to lead. But lead your own self first. आइए जाने रामायण में हमें क्या रास्ता मिला है लीडरशिप के बारे में, क्योंकि ये एक ऐसा ग्रंथ है जो हमें बताता है कि लीडरशिप इज पॉसिबल विद 100% मर्यादा। आइए जाने शुभा जी से प्रभु राम ने हमें क्या रास्ता दिखाया। शुभा जी।
Hare Krishna. It's always a pleasure and honor to be on this platform speaking on Ramayan from life's perspective. Today we're going to talk about leadership. Ramayan is the book on leadership. In fact, the Constitution of India, when it was written down, if you actually look at the original Constitution of India, the whole Constitution of India is written down with pictures of Ramayana and Mahabharata all over it. So it's very interesting that the constitution of our entire country is based on the leadership principles taught by our epics. And therefore, it is so very important to talk about leadership from the perspective of Ramayan. In fact, I'm doing an entire PhD on this subject of leadership and governance from Ramayan. So I'll share some of my research with all of you all today during this session. In my understanding, what Ramayan teaches us is leadership means responsibility. Responsibility means sacrifice. And sacrifice means crying. The place where leaders cry, the followers are happy. And the place where followers cry, the leaders are happy. So Ramayana is a book where you will find all leaders, whether it is Dasharath Maharaj, whether it is Ram, whether it is Bharat, whether it is Lakshman, whether it is Sita, all the leaders are crying, and they're crying so that the followers can be happy and peaceful, satisfied, and have a life of substance. The idea of leadership is connected with the idea of sacrifice. So, in the Ramayan, there is a very beautiful section which I would like to begin today's discussion with, where Ram and Sita are going to be coronated as the king and queen of Ayodhya. The next morning, the coronation ceremony is going to take place. And while the coronation is going to take place the next morning, at that point, that night is very interesting. I don't think you would have ever heard what happened that night. Of course, a lot of other things happened that night, but one of the things that goes hardly noticed or hardly spoken about is what were Ram and Sita doing that night. That night, Ram and Sita did not sleep at all. The whole night, they were sitting in front of a yagya kund. There was a sacrifice going on, and Ram and Sita were sitting. They fasted the whole night, and they were sitting in front of the sacrificial fire and talking about their responsibility that is going to come up. They were preparing themselves mentally to take up the responsibility. See, the fire, we pour, ghee into the fire, right? So usually, every time ghee is poured into the fire, what does it really mean? And yagya in English, when you translate the word yagya, it means sacrifice. Why is yagya translated as sacrifice? Because that is what it literally means. So leadership is a yagya where you are pouring in ghee. What is the ghee that you're pouring in? You're pouring in the ghee of personal inconveniences into the fire of a sacrifice. Every leader has to be ready to take a lot of inconveniences for the sake of fulfilling his responsibilities. And that's the whole idea behind leadership. The idea behind leadership is connected with sacrifice. So Ram is reminding Sita that from tomorrow onwards, we are not a prince and a princess. We are going to be king and queen. And Ram is reminding Sita that from tomorrow onwards, we lose our personal choices. We lose our personal life. From tomorrow onwards, our life is for the welfare of society and for the welfare of people. And that's what the idea of leadership in the Ramayana is.
I was I was wanting to hear your thoughts before asking Mummy to share her thoughts about leadership, about three aspects: leadership, governance, and administration. As a daughter, I can tell you 24 घंटे की आहुति गई है तीनों रोल्स में, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में, गवर्नेंस में, लीडरशिप में त्याग गया है. मम्मी,
I think it's very well said. Both of you have said very valuable things. You said beautifully that when you're ready to lead, because everybody does not, they may want to lead, but they are not ready to lead. But it begins with yourself. And as Shubhaji said, it begins with personal sacrifice. I recall when I was asked to stand up for the election those days, go back to the assembly election, and I told my friends that hereafter means that you have no time to yourself. No time you have a right to you have no right to your own time hereafter. So many of us don't want that kind of a political life. Why? Because the moment you get into political life, all doors have to be kept open. And nothing belongs to you. Everything belongs to the other. And third, as Shubhaji said, it is always others. The talisman is it good for the other? Whatever I do, is it good for the other? So what both of you have said is perfectly correct. I've experienced it. I think this is the leadership which we all treasure and value. We are remembering Bhagwan Ram today because of his sacrifice, his maryada, and that always people were first before others. So I very much appreciate and love what both of you said so brilliantly. Thank you so much. Your mic is not on, Sana. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You spoke about sacrifice. हमने ने त्याग के बारे में बात करी. For a leader to lead, you have to be the same who you are inside and out. You can't be leading two lives. How important it is for a leader to lead a life of integrity, inside and outside, because that's going to reflect. Shubhaji?
Absolutely. The idea of leadership is very strongly connected with the idea of how a leader is able to manage his or her reputation, from the point of view of, integrity and character, and the way people look at him. And that's so essential to what leadership really is, because many leaders, they don't understand that leadership is very much connected with one's personal character and with one's personal frame of reference. And I would like to share some really interesting thoughts on what Ram tells Bharat about leadership. This whole section of Ram Bharat Milap in the Ramayan is a very powerful lesson on leadership. Everyone talks about Ram Raj, but nobody really knows what Ram Raj is. In my research, I have studied this particular section very deeply. And in my understanding, the entire blueprint of Ram Raj is in this section, in this discussion between Ram and Bharat. Probably someday in future, I'll write an entire book on leadership based on this discussion. I'll just share some very interesting thoughts that Ram speaks about to Bharat, and he defines character by 14 things. Ram defines what character of a leader is based on 14 things. And Ram tells these are 14 sins that a leader should avoid religiously. And that makes a leader a high charactered person. And I'm just going to share with you all the list of these 14 things. And it's just so fascinating what a list Ram makes and offers to Bharat. First, he says, giving the material world as much importance as the spiritual world. That means giving material things as much due importance as spiritual things. That is the first sin of leadership. The second sin that Ram speaks about to Bharat, he says, carelessness is the second sin of leadership. When a leader becomes careless, it's a big sin. Third, Ram talks about is procrastination as being a big sin that a leader commits. Fourth, he speaks about lack of appreciation of righteous people. The fifth thing Ram speaks about is neglecting duties because of overindulgence in intoxicants. The next thing, sixth one Ram talks about is overt attachment to sensory indulgences. Seventh, autocracy in decision making. Eighth, Ram talks about avoiding implementation of decisions that are already made. And then Ram says the ninth thing is dishonesty. And then Ram speaks about revealing confidential information. And then this is amazing. Look at this. He says, this is according to Ram, character. What character means? Demonstrating anger at respectable mother, father, guru, wise men, and the weak. even if they have committed a mistake. It's a sin of leadership. And then he says, indulging in discussions with people of adverse opinions and thus wasting your time. Isn't this so amazing what Ram is saying? Don't waste time with people who have adverse opinions and who are not going to listen to what you're saying, basically. And then he says, speaking negative words before beginning a new venture. A lot of times we speak negative things even before we begin something. So that's a sin of leadership. And then the 13th one, Ram says, is respecting bad people. And the last one, he speaks about laziness. So these are sins of leadership according to Ram. And this portrays what good character is from Ram's perspective, basically.
शुभा जी, ये तब मुमकिन है when a leader considers the position as a sacred responsibility and not as a privilege. And the leader does not take anything for granted. But the leader truly takes the position as a sacred responsibility to serve and give back. तब जाकर इतनी awareness आती है, and this needs a lot of reflection. But before the reflection, it needs to be the highest priority for a leader to do justice to the responsibility given to the leader. I would request Mummy to say a few words, and then I request Shubhaji to guide us what Prabhu Ram says, because I have seen my mother do her work as an absolute sacred duty.
You see, the first thing the leader does, every one of us have a choice of responsibility, also the extent of responsibility, also the dimensions of responsibility. Even parenting is a very major responsibility. It's a leadership to lead the family towards a righteous path. It's leadership. So I would think while I'm listening to Shubhaji and you, leadership is political, leadership is administration, leadership is spiritual, leadership is social, leadership is academic, and all have their own areas of priorities to keep. So what 14 sins to be avoided, something or the other cuts across all the patterns of leadership I've shared with you. What is the priority in administrative leadership? What is the priority in political leadership? Political leadership. We are all thinking the leadership is a position. Once you're sitting on that position, the high chair, you are a leader. It is the performance and the yagna and the sense of responsibility. Another thing is the leadership is where people follow you, even if you don't want anybody to follow you, they follow you. That's another sign of leadership. Now, exactly which dimension you're looking at. So I think there are lots of dimensions of leadership, social and political. But this 14 sins to be avoided, as Bhagwan Ram said, cuts across all leadership, the dimensions as I've shared.
You're muted, Sainaji.
It's a sacred responsibility. It's not a privilege. It comes. It is prasad. It comes with grace. But it's a responsibility. Your thoughts on that, Shubhaji?
Absolutely. Leadership is a responsibility, and the idea of responsibility is very much connected with how a leader is conscious of his responsibility. And it's so amazing how much a leader has to be conscious. I'm going to pick up a very small episode from the Ramayana and look at that from the point of view of leadership. So when you actually read the Ramayana, you will come across one sentence in the first section of the Ramayana itself, the Balakanda of the Ramayana, the first section itself. You'll come across an amazing section, and most people will just miss it. This section says that when there is a description of the city of Ayodhya and all the systems of Ayodhya, one thing is very odd while describing the systems of Ayodhya. So it says that in Ayodhya, every soldier in the army of Ayodhya is expert in sonic archery, but no one practices it. It says like that. Everyone is expert in sonic archery, but no one practices it. What is sonic archery? It's called Shabda Bedi. It's a type of martial arts. Shabda Bedi. That means you can blindfold yourself and shoot by hearing sound, basically. That's what is called sonic archery. And why is it banned in Ayodhya? Now, if you just ask this question, why it is banned in Ayodhya, an amazing understanding of leadership opens up. Uh, Dasharath Maharaj was expert in this sonic archery. While he was in the forest hunting once, he came across a situation where he heard something that sounded to him like a tiger drinking water from a river. And as soon as he heard that sound, he shot an arrow. And suddenly, a human voice screamed in pain. And that's the famous Shravan Kumar episode. And this young boy was shot by the arrow of Dasharath Maharaj, breathing in pain and too much agony. So Dasharath ran there. He said, "Sorry, sorry, sorry, I made a big mistake. I thought it was a tiger." Shravan Kumar explained his problem. He told him that whatever you may say may be true according to you, but look at my situation. I was the only son of my aging parents who were both blind, and they're totally dependent on me. And they're waiting for me to get water. What can I do now? Dasharath Maharaj really felt bad. He ran to the parents of Shravan Kumar to explain to them the situation. But it was too much pain for them to handle. And they cursed Dasharath. Just like we are dying in separation from our son, we curse you that you will die in separation from your son. Dasharath Maharaj returns back to Ayodhya. The first thing he does, bans sonic archery. Because he didn't want one more curse to be made, to be experienced after another mistake, right? So there are two things that usually go missing when leaders act without reasoning. A lot of times, leaders are passionate about things, but passion sometimes takes away your ability to reason. And when your ability to reason is gone and you are only doing things out of passion, you tend to make mistakes. And those mistakes are painful. Every leader has to have the guts and has to have the courage to say, I made a mistake, and rectify his mistake based on his experience and thinking about the future. Usually, most leaders are so passionate about what they want to do that they don't stop and reason why they're doing what they're doing. And this particular small episode in the Ramayana is so very important and so very pertinent to the idea of conscious leadership, which you are talking about.
शुभा जी, this also shows कि जब हाथ में ताकत मिलती है, whether it's a sword or whether it's a pen or whether it's a role that you play, how sensitive one needs to be, how careful one needs to be with the power given to you. And for that, what are the steps? Because one is, of course, daily reflection. end of the day. The other is also surrounding yourself with good advice, the correct kind of team around you, the correct advisory team around you. It also means taking stock of the situation, because जब आप किसी position में होते हो, you need to be very realistic. You must know what are you leading. Your knowledge about your area of leadership must be very strong. So how important it is for a leader to be so careful, to be so aware, to be so awake.
In his discussion with Bharat, Ram asks him a series of questions. This section of the Ramayana is known as Kachit Sarga. Kachit Sarga means Ram begins so many questions with the word Kachit. He says, these are all questions. He says, I hope you have done this. I hope you have done this. Ram is not telling Bharat, you should do this. He's only telling him series of things. He's saying, I hope you have done this also. I hope you have done this also. And in that, there's one small section that I would like to focus, which will help you understand from your concerns perspective. Behind the success of a leader, there are two types of factors. There are tangible factors and there are intangible factors. So while most leaders focus on the tangible factors, Ram is telling Bharat to focus on some intangible factors behind a leader's success. And I'm just going to tell you some of the things that Ram speaks to Bharat. It's amazing. These are the questions that Ram is asking. He says that I hope you are respecting the gods, our ancestors, dependents, elder teachers, doctors, and brahmanas. I hope you're treating our teachers with respect. And he says, I hope you greet your educators, the aged, the ascetics, the deities, the unexpected guests, the trees standing at crossroads, and all the brahmanas who live auspicious and spotless lives. I hope you're treating them with respect. Look at the list. I was amazed. In that list, trees also there. Ram is asking Bharat, I hope you're treating the trees with respect. I hope you're treating the old people with respect. Look at the words that Ram is choosing to share here. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are two factors that are responsible for a leader's success. There are tangible factors and there are intangible factors. Tangible factors are very grossly visible and perceivable factors. Intangible factors are invisible and imperceptible. Most leaders invest their time, energy, resources, money gathering and prioritizing tangible factors, which influence their success. But a few leaders, in addition, they invest time, energy, effort in working on the intangible factors behind success. So tangible factors is like having the right team, having the right resources, having the right strategy, having the right place, the right instruments. Intangible factors are blessings from higher powers, prayers, good wishes, and the right atmosphere. So these intangible factors are very subtle, but they're very powerful in helping a leader become successful. Like, for example, when Ram is saying that you should respect trees that are standing on crossroads, what does Ram mean? He's trying to say that a leader has to respect his ecosystem. For any organization to prosper, even something as insignificant as a tree adds value. When a leader understands even such factors and is respectful to those factors, the leader doesn't take anyone or anything lightly. So when a leader disrespects any aspect of life, he is responsible for a disbalance in the ecosystem. And And the idea is that don't take even small things lightly. That's the point that Ram is trying to make here. So leadership is about integration, not seeing things disconnected from oneself is what true leadership is. So when a leader realizes that everyone and everything is important in his life, he begins to treat everyone and everything respectfully. And that increases the intangible factors that influence a leader's success. And it's the point is tangible factors help you attain success, but intangible factors help you retain success.
शुभा जी, एक लीडर के लिए दुआएं कमाना कितना जरूरी है? दुआएं कमाओ, बट एक लीडर का धर्म होता है डिसीजन मेकिंग. The decisions sometimes can be very tough. A leader cannot be a people pleaser. The greatest dharma of a leader is continuous correct decision making. और दुआएं भी कमानी है. Compassion also can't be misplaced. ये सब मुमकिन नहीं है बिना कृपा के. शुभा जी, मम्मी,
I'll use
मम्मी
yeah.
जी, शुभा जी, मम्मी.
So
No, Kiranji, please go ahead.
explain the intangibles because you made a great statement that the intangibles make you retain
Yes.
while the tangibles make you attain. Could you please explain? It's a great statement. What are the intangibles which allow you to retain?
So, the tangible factors are factors that are visible, like your own ability, the resources that you have, the place, the atmosphere that in which you are working, the kind of instruments and the kind of equipments that you're working with, the kind of resources that you're working with, the kind of manpower that you're working with. All these are factors that are and the kind of efforts that you're putting in. All these are very tangible and very perceivable factors, basically. So if you put in all that effort, if you have the right kind of resources, it's all visible and obvious. But there is something that is invisible: your attitude towards people, how you behave with others. It's not visible easily. Your genuine intentions, not visible easily. Your dealings with powers that are beyond you. There is something known as Daiva that Bhagavad Gita speaks about. That is a factor that is beyond you. Like every single thing we do in our life, every kind of work and effort that we put in our life, there are some factors that are in our hands, but there are some factors that are not in our hands. Like for example, studying is in the hand of a student, but what questions come in the paper exam that is not in the hand of the student. Putting an effort is in the hand of a businessman, but how the market changes, some trends, some kind of global phenomena that happens, that is not in our hands. So there are some factors that are in our hands and there are some factors that are not in our hands. Recognizing the fact that I can only do this much. And beyond that, I need to depend on higher powers. That recognition is what intangible factors is all about.
Excellent. Your mic is off.
No, it's on, mom. Asking you something very different. When in today's time, when you inherit a legacy, and with God's grace, with Ma's Kripa, you inherit a legacy, how important is for the person inheriting it or the youngsters of today's time to value what they are inheriting, to not take it for granted, Do not try becoming larger than the chair. And not go sit on the chair. Because Prabhu, when I read the Ramayan, how much Prabhu Ram worshipped his father's legacy, how much Bharat worshipped the absence and how he looked after. And when in today's time, when you inherit rich legacies, you're not supposed to be sitting on that chair. You're supposed to be taking care of that chair while being aware of what you bring personally to the table, while holding your own. You look after the position, you take it forward, and you don't take it for granted. Your thoughts on that, Shubhaji?
It's very interesting that when Bharat decides to come and meet Ram, this is precisely the discussion that they have. The discussion between Ram and Bharat is the discussion about rights and responsibilities. Bharat is trying to tell Ram, it's your right to have the throne. Ram is telling, see, it's my right to have the throne, but it is my responsibility to follow my father.
Yes.
You are talking about rights, I'm talking about responsibilities. In today's organizations and today's world, actually the discussion is just this. Most people talk about their rights. They don't talk about their responsibilities. When it comes to others, they point out to the others' responsibilities. They don't talk about the others' rights. Here, in the Ramayan, the discussion is very different level. The discussion between Ram and Bharat is not the discussion of right and wrong. The discussion is about right and more right. Ram is saying this is right. Bharat is saying this is more right. So in the Ramayan, at least in Ram's side of the family, you don't find too much discussion about right and wrong. There's no question of wrong there. The question is always what is right and what is more right. And that's a very interesting discussion because the idea of more right is connected with the idea of responsibility. And therefore, if you look at the way Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrugna, all four brothers dealt with this whole family chaos that happened, the fiasco that happened, in the most mature way, to understand that you have to understand how they dressed for 14 years. 14 years, all the four brothers wore tree bark and deer skin and had matted hair. They only ate fruits and roots, nothing at all, literally. No Rajbhog. And none of them ate. 14 years. And then they didn't sleep on beds and palatial buildings, they slept on floors. 14 years the four brothers did this to prove to the world that leadership is about setting the right example. It's not about facilities. It is not about, suddenly becoming, getting a heritage and making yourself extremely rich and powerful. It's all about responsibility. And Bharat, he set such a standard, and I mean, from a logical perspective, Bharat, he didn't do anything wrong. His mother did all the mistakes, basically. And he just apparently got a legacy, which for free, basically. But Bharat understood that I don't deserve this. And I didn't feel he deserved it. He always felt it was wrongly taken away from Ram. And now I need to fulfill my responsibility. So Bharat, he very hesitatingly took charge of the kingdom because Ram was pushing him so much. And he said, I will take responsibility for the kingdom, but I will not enjoy the rights that the kingdom gives me, the role gives me. And for 14 years, Bharat lived a very simple life. But interestingly, when Bharat returned back the kingdom to Ram 14 years later, the kingdom was 9 times bigger than what he had got.
Yes.
So which means that Bharat, he fulfilled the responsibility of the king, but he didn't take the facility of the king. Usually, a lot of people who don't take the facility, they will not even take the responsibility. Usually, that's what happens. So it's like almost like a Cold War. They say, "I don't want facility," but that means they also say, "I don't want responsibility." Basically, but look at Bharat. He didn't take the facility, but he didn't shrug the responsibility. He gave the kingdom back to Ram 9 times bigger.
Yes. Shubhaji, there's a time to lead, there's a time to prepare. I also want to ask you, doesn't sometimes a presence of a leader speak volumes? You spoke about Bharat. His love for his brother, his humility, his bhavna of duty, and his presence as himself spoke volumes. As you said, 9 times bigger. It was his presence. Sometimes doesn't the presence of a being, a human being, speak volumes?
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you something about, the presence of a leader, in terms of not just being present there, but
Yes.
also from the point of view how to present oneself to people. So there is a very interesting discussion between Ram and Bharat, where Ram talks about how a leader should be present in public, present in front of people. And I think this is something that every leader should listen to. And it's so amazing the concepts that Ram speaks. Two or three concepts I'm going to share with you all. Look at this question of Ram to Bharat. He asks him, I hope you don't sleep too much and make sure you get up on time. And then he says, I hope you spend the second half of the night contemplating your previous day's actions. What Ram essentially means is simply this. When he's saying that, I hope you don't sleep too much, this is a very important indicator how people perceive a leader's contribution and a leader's active presence in life. When a leader sleeps too much, that means he's essentially not really bothered about people, right? He's just relaxing. And look at the question of Ram, very aptly pointed question. I hope you contemplate in the second half of the night, which essentially means early morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. That's the kind of time that Ram is talking about. That means as soon as you get up early in the morning, do you spend time thinking about what you did the previous day? Every human being, every leader should spend some time with himself. Why is Ram talking about early in the morning? Simply because early morning phones don't ring. Early morning your notifications don't come. Early morning there is nobody around you except you yourself. So that means every day a leader should spend some time with himself, contemplating before making himself present to the world. So when you think for yourself and be with yourself for some time, analyze your actions the previous day, it really helps you to act the next day. Another thing Ram talks about is, look at this. This is just so amazing. When I read this, I was blown off. Ram says, do you dress up royally and make public appearances every day morning? Look at this. Ram is asking him, do you dress up regally and make public appearances in the morning? You know why Ram says this? Because when a leader appears very well dressed, it gives confidence to people. So Ram is telling Bharat, you should make public appearances. Why do you think kings and queens were dressed so regally and royally? There is a connection between your dressing and the way people perceive you. So it is very important for leaders to be presentable nicely to public, basically. It increases their confidence. And then Ram talks about, he says, I hope you're not excessively attached to wealth or pleasures or religious pursuits. So look at this. Look at Ram's choice of words. He's saying if a leader is excessively attached to wealth, excessively attached to sensual pleasures, and excessively attached to religious pursuits, people lose confidence in that leader. Everything should be done in a balanced fashion. Don't go overboard. That's what Ram is talking about. So public appearance, when you go overboard, people kind of lose faith in that leader. And then he says that I hope you have set aside time for wealth, religion, and sensual delights. These should be engaged in a timely manner and not done indiscriminately. That means every leader should have some time allotted for his personal um, entertainment, enlightenment, and security. So a leader should have time for these three things, and that's when the leader can contribute to society. And then this is something so amazing. Ram says, ask Bharat, I hope you share delicious dishes with your friends who love them and don't eat them alone. He's asking Bharat, do you share good food with other people and not eat alone? Look at this. It is so important for leaders to share the best of what he or she has with others. And that sharing of what the person has is so, it actually gives a lot of public, credibility to a person. And then the last thing, from a respect point of view, from a public respect point of view, he says, I hope your servants are neither disrespectful towards you nor too fearful about you. So most leaders, either they create too much fear or they become so bindas, so open that people don't fear them at all. So Ram says a leader should be in between.
Shubha ji, this actually means a leader को तो सच में you have to keep your eyes and your ears open all the time. आपकी मन की आंखें खुली होनी चाहिए. You must be aware of what's happening behind your back also, because there is a world that exists behind your back, which is very different from what you see in front of you. So the level of awareness of what's happening around you, what's happening behind your back, what's happening within you, what's happening outside you is so important. And a personal mission statement is very important for a leader. A personal mission statement, and then a vision, and then reflection. This is a lot of inner work. This is a lot of inner work. And for a leader, it must come naturally. For a leader, it actually must come naturally. Your thoughts on that, Shubhaji?
One of the most important things that every leader should really work on
Ji.
is the idea of humility. A lot of leaders, they're great in terms of achievements, in terms of abilities, in terms of charisma, power, influence, but they fall short when it comes to humility. Humility is something that helps one remain grounded. Humility is something that really helps one understand that there is so much I need to know more. There is so much I need to learn more. And this is so very important for every leader to work on. And imagine if society was filled with leaders who were humble, down to earth, and very grounded, it would be so much easier to function, isn't it? Um, Humility actually helps one connect genuinely with human beings because it makes you accessible to the world. And this is something that every leader has to work on an individual level. And just to give you one really interesting perspective on this, when Ram became the king of Ayodhya, many times he would go missing. He would just go missing. Nobody would know where he is. His personal assistants wouldn't know, the ministers wouldn't know, Even sometimes Sita wouldn't know where he went. And invariably, whenever such things happened and Ram went missing, he would be found in some forest, sitting under the feet of a sage and hearing from him. Ram went offline many times. He just went offline. Why? Because he knew that for me to be online and contribute, I need to upgrade myself time to time. Every leader needs to have that humility to understand I need guidance to grow. If you do not have the humility, you will not be in a position to actually accept guidance from others. And that is why Ram would just disappear. So that he would go charge himself up in the association of great saints, learn something solid, substantial, and come back and contribute to society. A well, for it to give water continuously, it has to be filled first. It has to receive water first. No well can only keep giving water all the time and expect to survive. A lot of leaders, their role is to give, but for them to be able to give, they need to fill themselves up first. And for a leader to fill himself up, he needs to have the humility to approach someone seeking guidance. He needs to have the humility to approach someone saying that I don't know everything. And that humility is very personal. And that is something that nobody can teach. No MBA, no IIM, no IIT, no institution in the world can teach you humility. That is something that you have to contemplate for yourself. That is something that you have to develop in yourself. Humility is not learned by lectures. Humility is not learned by theoretically understanding the importance of humility. Humility is something that you have to practice on your own after deep contemplation. And every single person who wants to be dominantly, strongly contributing in roles of leadership needs to have some time set aside to really contemplate on his nothingness. All of us are nothing to a great extent, you know. We may be something to some extent, but to a great extent, we are nothing. There is so much we don't know. And that means there is so much scope to become humble. When we think of all the things we know, there is a good scope of becoming proud. But if we think of all the millions of things that we don't know, there's a good scope of becoming humble. So every leader should spend some time contemplating on things that you don't know, so that it can keep us humble. Socrates, on the last day of his life, literally 1 or 2 days before he died, he was learning a new language. Somebody asked him, "Why are you learning a new language? You know, you're going to die in 2 days." He said, "No. I mean, I still have 2 days left. Let me learn something new." That's humility, isn't it? And that's like epitome of humility, actually. And that is what makes leaders just so amazing.
I'm going to ask a question to Mummy and you. Are leaders continue students of life? Are leaders always students of life? Mummy, is a true leader always a student of life?
The student, the leader, if he has to continue to grow, he has to be, because he has to go on learning to teach to learn. Actually, it's not learning to teach, it's teach to learn and learn to teach. So they have to constantly refresh themselves. It's like reinventing yourself. How do you reinvent unless your mind is overhauled on a regular basis? That is how you read or you go to the feet of the saint. So every leader, it's like the best teacher is one who prepares fresh lesson for the students the next day. Otherwise, he's already outdated. So good teacher is one who refreshes her knowledge before taking the next class and go back to read, get inspired and take. Similarly, is a leader. A leader has to rethink. I did this yesterday. What is the new thing I do today according to the needs of the people? And raise the capability to deliver that. Because A leader is a responsible leader. He's looking for fulfilling his responsibility. That's what I think.
जी शुभा जी student full of life, a continuous student of life. A leader needs to be learning, relearning, unlearning all the time. Your thoughts on that, Shubhaji? A continuous cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the beauty about being a learner is that um, learning comes from all sources. Learning can come from somebody who is younger to us, somebody who's older than us, and somebody who is absolutely, uneducated, and somebody who is greatly educated. It can come from any source. And Ram has one very amazing concept about this choosing your learning sources. And one of the questions that Ram asks Bharat about choosing the learning sources, this is look at this question. He says, "I hope you prefer one wise man instead of 1,000 stupid ones, knowing that a wise man can help you deal with any calamity." Look at Ram's choice of words. He says, "If a king employs 1,000 fools, they will all be useless to him. And therefore, a king has to employ one wise person who is courageous, saintly, and efficient as a minister. And that one person can help him attain all levels of prosperity." So, choosing that one wise person is so very important.
Shubhaji, मैं पढ़ रही थी and the scripture says राजा दशरथ जी के जो पूरी एडवाइजरी टीम उनके मंत्रीगण शुभा जी इतना ज्यादा उनमें अपनापन एज यू सेड वहां राइट ही राइट था रॉन्ग तो था नहीं बट उनकी लॉयल्टी वाज टुवर्ड्स द आइडियोलॉजी ऑफ द किंग it was towards the king. They loved him, they adored him, but they were driven by the same ideology. There was no conflict of ideology. So they were also self-driven. And that's a little tough to get in today's time and age. So a leader has to continuously make sure the leader is so tough that the ideology is never ever compromised. Mummy, your thoughts on that?
Yes, you're talking about the mission statement. The every leader has a mission statement for life and mission statement for at work. And all that he does has to go on being shared. It has to be repeated, communicated, exhibited, learned, developed. But it is within the parameters of now. I'm theory. You hear you talking about theory. Let me talk about Pondicherry, where I last worked. When I gave the mission statement of Pondicherry to prosperous Puducherry, I can only talk about my last experience right now. That was the mission statement, prosperous Puducherry, which means anything you do, anything you decide, is it for prosperity of this of the town, of the city? If it is, it's the right thing. If it isn't, it's the wrong thing. But all the work and action is going towards making the town prosperous. So everybody's decision, everybody's action, there's no conflict in this. So when I gave this, that is what I meant. Everybody gets a mission. I've noticed our own prime minister keeps giving various goals. When he said Swachh Bharat, that was great. Swachh Bharat meant no defecation outside, sanitation to be cleaner. Now he kept repeating. So it needs reiteration, and then you live up to it, and then you provide for it, then you train for it, then you inspire people. Then there's a whole gamut. So there's no conflict in the ultimate objectivity. You understand? So when you see these statements coming in, the latest today of the Prime Minister's is Gati Shakti. Gati Shakti is bringing all the key departments of infrastructure together to work together in harmony, because otherwise one file goes and it's come back with lots of objections. No objections. You are working now in harmony, not silos, but together. But what is the goal? Goal is prosperous India. Mera Bharat, Atmanirbhar. So I think these when the leader gives these kinds of goals, roadmaps, pathways, exactly being done what Shubhaji's explained.
Ji. Shubhaji, your few thoughts before we close the program. Your few thoughts before we conclude.
The most amazing thing that my observation of many things in the Ramayana. You just spoke some time back about the ministry of Dasharath Maharaj. So
Ji.
I thought I'll add a little bit to that.
Yes.
So Dasharath Maharaj's ministry had 8 ministers who were the most prominent ministers in his ministry, and each minister had a department of his own. And interestingly, the name of the minister was also the name of his department. So there was one minister whose name was Koper. And this minister, his entire department was grievance department. He had to make sure there were no dissatisfied people in Ayodhya. He had an entire department only going and hearing people's problems. And you might say that's so impractical. People will have so many problems. See, in my understanding, people don't want solutions to the problems when they approach you. What they want is that at least you understand our problem. So Ayodhya's ministers, an entire department was created to simply go and hear people's problems. Whatever where they were able to be solved, they solved. But whatever they couldn't solve, people also understand that all problems have solutions. But at least try to understand what my problem is. If you actually if a leader spends time understanding people, half the problem is solved there only. People actually feel, at least there is somebody for me. And that feeling is so important that a leader has to set, into people. And I feel that's one of the most powerful roles that a leader can do. Give hope to people, give assurance to people, give a lot of sympathy and empathy to people. And that itself solves most of the problems for people. And I feel that's where a lot of leaders lack, because they don't really care for people, right? They only care for their power or their position or their influence. But if you actually start caring for people and trying to feel what the pain they go through, a lot of problems get solved.
Ji. Ji. Mummy? Ji.
This lecture, this presentation by Shubhaji has been just brilliant and very unique in many ways. I've heard lots of leadership lectures and discourses, but focusing with we've had Mahatma Gandhi's leadership. Mahatma Gandhi, the CEO. There's a book called Mahatma Gandhi, the CEO. And every turning point of his life, they brought in a leadership quality out of it. I think the same thing, I think Shubhaji is required. Bhagwan Ram, the CEO of today. Because unless we present Ram in modern times in this manner, Ram will only be remembered for what in a limited way, but as a person to be worshipped from a distance and to be asking for a blessing. But here was a person who understood leadership before Socrates and Aristotle. So when you begin the books, Ram is nowhere there. Ram is relegated to epics and spirituality only, whereas he's in governance and administration. So I think what I'm saying is that today's presentation of Shubhaji, if the demonstrative learning as a team get good professionals together, make a very good YouTube of it on leadership, Ram's leadership, and send it to the IMMs and the management schools so that this becomes a course. And then wherever Shubhaji can go in person, we may go. Otherwise, at least what he said may go in already.
Kiran, ma'am, I would like to tell you that I have developed an entire course based on this. and I'm teaching it in a couple of IIMs and at NMIMS and a few other B schools. But as you said, it needs to go much more viral than what it is at this point, because there is so much that the Ramayana has to offer, in the leadership domain, basically. And that's one of the reasons I precisely chose to do my PhD on this subject, basically, because I felt it is so
Ayodhya,
well.
Ayodhya is coming up. Do you have a school for Ram management leadership? If
Absolutely.
Ayodhya should have that school of leadership, because we talk about Ram Rajya and it's understood in a limited way and nobody's fault. But Ayodhya could have a separate section of management. Ram, the administrator, Ram, the leader, and in governance qualities. And you talked about these 14 sins. So I think it maybe we could work towards this, and you could. But IMMs, management schools, but you could do a book on. Now the next book could be Ram, the CEO.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. We could work on it together also, ma'am.
Only you can, because you see, you got the dialogue so clear between them and Bharat. And that's how you need to explain it. Who is better than you? So, make maybe a YouTube on Ram the CEO. Maybe you can do this. Ram the CEO, make a little YouTube and also do a book. Because you read Mahatma Gandhi, the CEO. What about Bhagwan Ram, the CEO?
Very important. Thank you for that.
जी शुभा जी टाइम हो गया है सो वी कंक्लूड द प्रोग्राम. हमारी ऑडियंसेस जो हमारे साथ आज जुड़े हैं, हमारी रामायण, हमारी भागवत गीता, प्रभु राम, माता सीता, लॉर्ड कृष्णा हमें पूरा ज्ञान दे गए हैं. उसमें है, उसमें लिखा है. जाइए, गो बैक टू योर शास्त्रास. वो हमें जीने का तरीका सिखाते हैं. Leaving a thought with you before we leave. Power is who you are. आपको बाहर से आके कोई पावर नहीं देगा. Power is who you are as a person. अपने अंदर की ताकत को पहचानिए और अपना नेतृत्व कीजिए. खुद का नेतृत्व कीजिए. आपको मिलेंगे अब अगले महीने ऐसी ही चर्चा के साथ.
Maybe with this book, with Shubhaji's new book.
Yes.
And we could launch the book, we could discuss the book.
Yes,
I
that's
think
what
we can
we're doing.
continue this. I think that can be announced more. So we can open with his new book.
We are going to be discussing we are launching the book and we are going to be discussing Think Big to Win. That's Shubhaji's 6th book in the series.
Fantastic.
उसको प्रस्तुत करेंगे आपके सामने अगले महीने. विचार कीजिएगा. It's been a session which needs a lot of introspection. It all begins with the self. मिलेंगे आपको अगले महीने.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
जय धर्मा, हरे कृष्णा, जय सिया राम.
I want to thank the DL team
Thank you,
for
Mami.
being together.
जी, जी,
Thank you.
जी.
Thank you.
Thank you. जी. प्रणाम. Thank you.
No.